Hey Canucks fans, let's talk about the possibility of Travis Hamonic not playing for the club this season. Now this is my second video of the day, so I'll spare you the long intro, but I will say this. I'll invite you to subscribe now for daily Canucks insight that's positive, timely, and trustworthy. So you guys know that I don't like to speculate on this channel. Sometimes I think it's a little clickbaity or whatever, but so I'm going to walk a fine line here because I still think this is newsworthy because of the circumstances. So Rick Dhaliwal, who, as you guys know, I really respect and I trust, he reported this morning on Donnie and Dolly that Travis Hamonic is contemplating his future, both short-term and long-term. For instance, he might retire completely. He might opt to sit out for one season, or he might end up reporting to the Vancouver Canucks. The reason why this is important now, well, it's important for many reasons, but October 1st, this Friday, is the opt-out deadline for any player that decides he does not want to play this season in the NHL. And when it comes to Travis Hamonic, there's been rumors that it's because he's anti-vax, but Rick Dhaliwal seemed to shoot that down earlier today. And to me, that makes sense. When Jim Benning says this whole organization is going to be 100% vaccinated, that could very well be true. And if Travis Hamonic isn't part of the organization, then you don't even have to count him in. But he likely is not anti-vax. He could be fully vaccinated, but that might not be the issue here. In fact, the issue I would suggest would be the health of his family, and in particular, his young daughter. Now, back in January 2019, Travis Hamonic had to miss some time with the Calgary Flames at the time because his 8-month-old daughter at the time, way back in January 2019, was battling an illness. And then in July 2020, Travis Hamonic became the first NHL player to opt out of the return to play, right? The bubbles, the playoff bubbles. And that was because he cited his daughter's health. And then it came out that she had a respiratory illness. So maybe that was the same illness that felled her a year and a half earlier. So now we're another year past that. So the daughter is likely about 3 years old now. And I'm guessing that she's still being challenged with this respiratory illness and facing struggles every day. So on a personal level, as a father of 3 children myself, and a husband to one, I get where he's coming from. And I would have 0% animosity or upset or any resentment, because I always say it, family first. Whether you're a worker in the Catholic Church, a lawyer, a doctor, or a professional athlete, family needs to come first. So if he's making this decision based on his family, or whatever decision he ends up making, or if he's taking so much time to make a decision because he's considering family, then that's great. That's what you should do. And every player is in a different situation. Petey and Hughes, I don't know if they're dating, but they're single from a standpoint. They're not married yet, no kids. It's different when you're 20, 21, 22 than when you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and you have a spouse and children to consider. So from a personal family situation, I give him props and kudos, and I don't harbor any ill will towards him just because he wasn't in training camp. Like, that's kind of a shallow way of looking at it. From a practical perspective, from a team, obviously this would hurt the Vancouver Canucks on the ice because of how good he is, and the fact that we basically penciled him and Quinn Hughes as a pairing, whether you call him the first pairing or the second pairing, but they were a pairing. And I talked about that in my video this morning about Jack Rathbone. You take them out of the lineup, and then you lose 2 top 4 defensemen, and now you basically are playing Hunt and Shen as your third pairing, whereas those 2 guys would likely be in the press box. So that's the practical on the ice part of it. He played well after he recovered from a slow start, his late start, and injuries that at the start of last season. And then he was pretty solid for the last 3 months of the season. So on the ice, that's going to make a big difference, obviously, if he decides to retire or if he decides to not play this season. So in essence, if he doesn't play for the Canucks this season, that leaves a huge hole in the right side. Then maybe you have Pullman, Myers, and Luke Shen is then asked to do a lot more as a third pairing defenseman, which I think he can do, but then you don't have a lot after that. Practical off the ice, that's where it gets interesting, because Hamonic, as you know, signed a 2-year deal worth $3 million per year. Remember, before he was making $4 million. Then he went down to 1.25 last year for the 1 year contract, and then he shot back up to $3 million. So a 2-year deal, $3 million a year. If he does not play for Vancouver, either retire retire or opt out, that money gets freed up. And of course, you guys know where I'm going with this. We know that Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes still need new contracts. So, when you factor in Michael Furlan's long-term injury reserve money, people have been talking about a number of around $16 million. Now you're looking at closer to $18.5, $19 million with Hamonic not playing. So now you can actually entertain signing long-term contracts for Pettersson and Hughes, right? You could do a $10 million contract for Pettersson. You could do an $8 million contract for Hughes, and both of those with term. I'm not saying that this is not at all a motivating factor for anything. It's apples and oranges in one point. The Hamonic situation is not dependent on the Hughes and Pettersson situation. But you could argue that the Hughes and Pettersson situation, among many different factors, that's why it's taking so darn long to do these contracts. This could be yet another wrinkle in that story. Is if Hamonic does indeed not play this season, that is money that the Canucks could allocate, some, all, none, I don't know why you do none, but some or all, to helping to sign Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. So you can see how this story is fascinating on many levels. And I hope I did a good job of not speculating too much. I think the primary reason, and Rick Dhaliwal said it, is this is a family issue as opposed to a vaccination issue. Of course, it goes hand in hand because of the pandemic we're living in. It affects how you treat, protect your family. So obviously they're connected, but I think the primary issue here is family safety that COVID plays into, as opposed to this is an issue of vaccination or not. So, but what I tried to lay out was that there's the family situation, the family factors. Then there's the practical on the ice from a team on the ice, and there's also practical off the ice when it comes to money for contract negotiations for PD and Hughes. So a lot of things to think about, but yeah, I don't want to speculate too much, but I'm just reacting to what Rick Dhaliwal said this morning, in that from what he's heard is Travis Hamonic is contemplating retirement, contemplating sitting out one season, or contemplating coming back. And he's got to make that decision by this Friday. Canucks fans, let me know what you think in the comments below. Where do you think this is going to go? And do you blame such a strong word, but do Hamonic's reasons resonate with you? And maybe let's create some conversation in the comments below. Tonight, Canucks and Calgary in Abbotsford. I'll be joining Parker for Canucks After Dark at 10 p.m. So I hope you join us then. In the meantime, subscribe if you like to, like this video if you like to, become a member of this channel if you like to, and leave a comment down below if you like to. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Have a great day. God bless, and go Canucks go.